Epic gamers of this world, I am back with Pack and Roll Remix, which, for those who've never heard of this game, because why would you have, this is an updated version of the DS game Pack and Roll from 2005. It is part of the Namco Museum Remix and Namco Museum Megamix compilations for the Wii. It is a very dope game, and there is a lot to unpack, so let's just go ahead and get started in 3, 2, 1, video games. So, the primary goal for each of the levels in this game, we control a limbless Pac-Man, and we basically have to collect Pac Dots to open these green barriers called Galvus Gates. So most of these levels are just me rolling around and collecting the fastest succession of Pac Dots in order to get through each of the gates. And the movement in this game is pretty self-explanatory. It's just rolling around and using this boost mechanic where you just get by shaking the Wii remote. It gives Pac-Man a burst of speed in one direction. It can also break boxes and can be used to gain a decent amount of height when traveling up inclines, which you'll be seeing a few times later in the run. The first few levels here are pretty self-explanatory, so I'll go into some specifics on some of the basics in running this game. So you might notice that I already have all the levels beaten, and I have the full bars of health you can get from getting all the hidden pizzas throughout the game. Because nothing changes in the game before or after you complete it, and Namco Museum Megamix autosaves by default, it would be a pain to have to wipe your Wii system memory every time you want to do runs, so it's allowed to already have the game beaten and to already have all of your scores maxed out and to have all the bars of health, which will come in handy for some time saves throughout this run. Another interesting movement technique in this run you'll see me use a lot is the break. So if you press B or Z, Pac-Man will stop in place. And this has a few different uses. First of all, it allows me to boost into these boxes without, or just obstacles in general, without having to worry about a super heavy amount of recoil. But it also allows me to do stuff like that, where I can stop Pac-Man's momentum instantly, and then as soon as I boost, Pac-Man will move in that direction as soon as I boost. It's really complicated to explain, but basically you can use it to sort of change your boost angle at any given point, but human reaction time is really, really difficult to optimize that with. But if you watch the tasks of this game by Evil Mobby, there's a lot of insane boosting. So here in 1-4, I'm introduced to the Night Pack power-up, which makes Pac-Man a lot heavier, so his movement's a little bit slower, and he doesn't get a whole lot of height and stuff, but he can break straight through metal boxes, which is often required whenever he's in a level. And he can also sink underwater, and he's immune to these spears. And he can also break straight through wooden boxes, although that's rarely as useful. Now in 1-5, we're supposed to be introduced to the other power-up of the game, Light Pack, but I'm actually going to be skipping it for this level because normal Pack moves slightly faster on the ground, and I can use this tiny movement speed difference to make a slightly faster platform cycle at the end of this level. Light Pack basically makes your physics extremely broken because he's a lot floatier and he lasts longer in midair. And he also gains a lot more height from stuff like slow boosts. So you'll see him abused for a few skips later in the run and exploits. Starting with this next level. So this level has one of the biggest skips in the run. Basically, I'm going to grab Light Pack here and then turn around and do that slow boost tech I mentioned briefly at the start of the run to get enough height to reach this ledge that you can't normally reach until the end of the level. Now, I need to get to the goal platform, but there's a Galvus Gate in the way. But fortunately, when Pac-Man grabs the ledge, he can sort of hop like that. So if I go into that little slit there and ledge grab hop, I can hop into that goal platform without opening the gate, which saves a good 35 seconds over actually playing that level as intended. Now, this level technically has a gate skip, but it's one of the gate skips in this run that's task only. There are these tiny skips where you can use these bounce pads to get to higher sections of the level early. But the main issue with this level is that in order to traverse the bounce pads at the end of this level, you need Light Pack normally, and it's just barely possible with normal Pack to reach the final set of bounce pads at the end of the level, and it's hard to make faster. So it's not humanly viable, but even if it was, it's probably not going to be put into RTA for a while. But there is a gate skip possible in that level, I just didn't do it. Now this level, there are no gate skips, even though the goal platform is literally located right behind where you start, making it impossible to get to there. You would think it would be possible to skip to it early by just slow boosting from the slope in front of you, but it's just barely not possible, and it's really annoying. So I do have to play through this level, which is like over a minute and 15 seconds long. It's also really difficult because there's a lot of dots you have to collect at super high speeds. A lot of the routing in this game comes from grabbing a bunch of pack dots in early sections of the level without having to go too far out of your way, so that in later sections of the level you don't have to go out of your way nearly as much or backtrack. So it's basically just all about taking direct paths and minimizing the amount of traveling you have to do. Now here we have the bowl. So this is a pretty funny part of the run because we used to not be able to know which direction to go in order to get out of the bowl because it's essentially a 50-50 chance. But an easy visual cue was found, which is just if you remember where that power pellet is, you can just boost off to the right of it and you'll always find your way out. Now I gotta hope I don't fall off at the end here because otherwise I'll lose like over a minute because I would have to go through this entire level again. I'm gonna wait at the end there so I don't accidentally beat my IL time, which would cause the game to autosave. That wastes about 4.5 seconds. It also happens if your life count changes or you update a score of any kind. So this is the first boss fight against Galvis, who's sort of the antagonist of the DS pack and roll. This game doesn't really have a story mode, so there's kind of no background on him. Basically, in these fights, you just have to eat 3 power pellets in order to make him edible, and then you have to eat them a total of 3 times. The power pellets will always spawn in the same spot, so it's just a matter of getting to them quickly. But for this phase in particular, I'm not on as much of a time limit because I have to wait for Galvis at the end of the 3rd power pellet anyways, so I don't have to chase him down because that would waste quite a bit of time. So I just got one more hit here. I grabbed Night Pack there so I could break that metal box and get it out of my way, and the movement speed doesn't matter because I would just still have to wait for Galvis there anyways. So now we're into World 3, which is where the run really starts to pick up in difficulty. 3-1 is a particularly reset-heavy level, because it's really hard to play through this level optimally. So first of all, I cannot miss any pack dots in this entire route, and otherwise I will have to go out of my way to get extras, and that loses time. And with how optimized this game is, that's not really a time loss you can afford. And what makes this even more difficult is that these ghosts sometimes like to get in the way. Ghost movement in this game is completely RNG, so sometimes they're just in your way and there's nothing you can do about it. But I'm getting pretty decent RNG here. I also have to have decent enough movement to make a platform cycle at the end of this level, after this first gate, and I'm gonna make it. So I'm grabbing Light Pack here because once I bounce off that car, I actually can skip having to ride any cars for the rest of this level. I can just ledge grab hop between these platforms. And there's one platform I have to skip, which is why it's important that I didn't miss any pack dots in that first section. And I can just slow boost to these last 2 platforms to skip the car here, and I'll have exactly enough pack dots to finish the level with. There we go. So next up we have 3-2, which is a level that has a variety of different ways you can go about it. This beginning section is pretty awful because sometimes it's really hard to get a good slope boost there, and those ghosts, again, their movement is RNG. Sometimes they're just kind of in the way and they cause you to slow down to a halt if you run into them. And I also have to go through there twice, putting here on the way back. So yeah, that wasn't very good, because both times I boosted into a ghost. I need Night Pack here because I need to grab some underwater pack dots in order to have enough to open this gate. So you're supposed to grab this normal pack card here. You can actually skip grabbing that normal pack card by just inching past it, and then you could actually skip having to eat this ghost in the next section. But normal pack just moves so much faster that it's worth it to actually grab the normal pack card and then just spend a little bit of time eating this ghost here to get Night Pack back, because I need Night Pack to break through a metal box at the end of this level. And thankfully, that Blinky Ghost operates on a cycle, so I'll know exactly where he'll be. And speaking of cycles, this level is pretty much all about cycles. So this is one of those levels where if you play it the same way every time, you'll get roughly the same in-game time every time. The cycles in this level are all fairly lenient, save for a couple here and there. But as long as you have decent control over Pac-Man, which does take a lot of time to get down, then most of the platform cycles here are pretty generous. There's also a lot of avoiding waiting. Like right here, I'm going to minimize the amount of time I spend waiting on these platforms by grabbing the absolute minimum pack dots required. You're probably wondering why I'm not using ledge grab hops to jump around gates in this level. First of all, most Golbus gates have invisible walls on both sides of them that extend out by quite a bit, and also extend quite a bit above them as well. But in levels like this, there's also wind that will push you back if you try to ledge grab hop around the gates. So, and yeah, that's not really an option in this level. Believe me, I've tried. So I do have to, that's why I can't just skip any gate I want, because there are restrictions. Yeah, I made all the cycles in that level. Again, pretty straightforward level if you know what you're doing. So now, this is a level, this is currently the longest level in game time in the run. And also, this is a level where I'm going to want to be pretty stingy about the number of pack dots I collect, because the fewer I miss, the more time I'll save at the end of the level, and I'll get into why at the end. However, if I do happen to miss one by like a movement error or something like that, then it's not really worth it to try going back to get it, so I'll just take that time loss. So I needed a night pack there to break some metal boxes, but I actually did... Well, that wasn't worth it. I actually ran into the water there so I could ditch it and get a normal pack, because again, normal pack just moves so much faster. And so it's worth it to go out of your way to change back. So I should only have missed one pack dot. Oh, I jinxed myself. I missed two. So there's this auto-scroller at the end of the level that I have to ride because there's no way to skip the last gate. So I need to get up to 80 pack dots in order to open the gate. But once I actually reach 80, I'm going to die on purpose, and this will spawn me back at the checkpoint with all 80 pack dots still in my inventory. And the reason why you don't want to miss too many pack dots is because the fewer the miss you, the earlier you can die and the more time you'll save. And if you miss too many, it's not even worth it to die. Because like I said, when your life count changes after you complete a level, then the game will take some time to autosave. And so you'll see that here after I finish the level. So here's the autosave I was talking about. This is what I want to avoid as much as possible. But in that case, the time saved from skipping the auto-scroller saves more time than that. So now, this is probably the scariest boss fight in the run. That certainly doesn't help, because it's super easy to fall off or get knocked off by Golbus in this fight, and whenever you die in a boss fight, you have to redo the entire fight, and this second phase is probably the hardest part of the entire fight. You have to move at a very specific time here and just hope Golbus doesn't get in your way. But I should be safe from here. So this third phase is pretty straightforward. It's basically I just need to eat the power pods at specific times to keep Golbus stunned. So I'll wait a little bit there, wait a little bit there, and now I don't have to worry about getting knocked off. Alright. That was a little bit sloppy, but we made it through without dying, and that's really all I can ask for in a marathon. So the Wii version of this game skips Ghostland and goes straight to Flaming Fortress, and this is without a doubt the hardest world in any percent. This first level is basically Pac-Man Pinball on steroids, because these first two sections will just have obstacles that just knock you all over the place. And this wouldn't be a problem if you didn't need every single pack dot in every single section of the level to open the gates, and you obviously cannot skip any of the gates, despite how much we've tried. So, this is made even worse because after this gate there is a platform cycle here, which I actually just made. Okay, so that was actually a cycle earlier than like the regular optimal cycle, but I don't think it's possible to make an early cycle like that RTA. But yeah, the cycle I got is the fastest one you can make for RTA, and it wastes about 3.5 seconds if you miss it. So 4-2 is a relatively straightforward level. It's just got a bunch of obstacles and a lot of dots you need to collect. I'll probably be damage fusing a lot through these levels to get through some of these obstacles. So this is another level with gates you can technically skip, but again, it's task only. And it probably won't even be implemented into RTA, even if it does become humanly viable. Because the only real time save you're gaining from it is not having to go out of your way to collect pack dots. You're basically, all you're really doing is just boosting around the gates using light pack, and if you fail them, you die. So they only would really save like 5 seconds at a risk of losing up to like 20. So you probably won't be seeing those implemented into RTA anytime soon, and they're both extremely precise. So Yeah, this level, again, nothing too much to say about it. The 2 gates you can skip in question are the last 2, by the way. So now, 4-3 is another literally straightforward level. So I am bound by a platform cycle at the start of this level. You cannot make a faster platform cycle than this in real time. Obviously, TAS can. So it looks like I just barely missed that, but I don't imagine you can make that in real time. But this is the optimal cycle. And the boosts I did at the start of this stage make that cycle a lot easier to hit. And coming up is probably one of my favorite parts of the run movement-wise, and you'll see why. You do a cool little recoil off that bounce pad there, and then you can just boost straight off to the second bounce pad to skip the first one. That actually saves like 2 seconds, and it was an optimization I overlooked for a really long time. Alright, so I might have to wait here so I don't beat my idle time. Actually, wait, that's fine. So now we're getting to a couple of late game run enders, particularly 4-4. So this level is bad in world record or PB attempts because any death in this level is basically the end of your run. This is basically just a long downward spiraling path with no skips because you can't fall far enough to make it from higher sections of the level to lower sections without dying. The problem with this level is it's really easy to die if you boost at the slightest wrong angle or get screwed by collision. And checkpoints are really sparse in this level, so if you die in this level on your world record pace, you basically have to reset. And that makes this level particularly stressful. So this last checkpoint I'm going to be grabbing here, for example, is the last checkpoint of the level. Yeah, for the most part, this level is very simple in terms of like what you're doing. All you're really doing is just boosting from beginning to end. It can be a pretty fun level to do like ILs of. And here you're supposed to ride these bounce pads all the way across, but we're gamers, so I'm not going to bother with that. And I kind of messed that up there. Okay, I kind of messed up my movement there. You can't skip any of these platforms, so I actually have to alternate between holding forward and neutral so I don't die. Right, that was a little sloppy near the end, but we didn't die, and that's all that matters. And I only lost a couple seconds. So 4-5, I want to give a shout out to Joester98, who is one of the only other people who's actually run this game because he helped find some tech that makes this level in particular quite a bit faster. So you can boost on the first frame that you're grounded on either a bounce pad or lava, which is basically just a bounce pad that damages Pac-Man, and you can enter a boost state and gain the horizontal momentum. And so I'm going to be using that a lot throughout this level. First here to skip a bunch of these bounce pad platforms. Again, this is, as far as we know, frame perfect. It's 60 FPS and is motion control dependent. And I can also use a lot of lava boosting here to skip some of these falling towers. Come on. There we go. And obviously, damage control is really important in this level. And taking 3 damage there, not ideal, but this could still be okay. Alright, I made up for it. Alright, so I believe this is the second fastest platform cycle you can make for RTA. There is a cycle faster than this, but it's extremely rare that I ever make it. You basically need to play the level perfectly. And one more final set of lava boosts, and we're at the goal. That was a really good level. So this boss is supposed to be kind of RNG because of the way Skullvis can turn this platform, but you can mitigate most of it, and I'm doing a terrible job of doing so. You can just slope boost to those power pellets on the first phase. Now I'm going to try a cool little strat here where I slope boost to this bottom power pellet before Skullvis starts rotating the platform. And I got it. So this will allow me to eat Skullvis quite a bit faster, but this platform will also not be fully stabilized by the time the third phase starts, which will mean that I might be able to get this third phase to go by even quicker than it normally does. But unfortunately the platform cycle is kind of bad, so... Oh. Didn't get the maximum benefit out of that, but still really good. And now we're on to Galvis' UFO, or Galvis' hideout, which is exclusive to the Wii version of the game and is the most broken world in this entire game. Because pretty much every single level here has a major skip, and for reference, only one of the levels in the first 4 worlds had a major skip. Well, that's humanly viable. So this level is actually the fastest level in the game with tasks, but the strat to boost straight to the goal platform from the start of the level as normal pack is not, there's no currently humanly viable setup for it, even though it would save like 30 seconds. So you actually have to go through that first gate in order to get light pack. So we can do an alternate version of the skip that still skips the second and third gates of this level. So I'm just going to slow boost here and make it to the corner of this goal platform, or fail it. This saves about 50 seconds still, so even if you mess up that skip a couple times, it's still worth it. So now we're on to the two fastest levels in the game. So we don't really understand how this works, but in this level, it's possible to fall from higher distances to lower distances without dying. And this level has the third gate skip of the run I'll be doing. I'm just going to use a glitchy ledge bounce here to just bounce straight into the goal platform like that. That's actually a lot more precise than it looks. And now we have this level. Yeah, I don't think that needed any explanation. So, this level is the scariest level at the end of the run, because there is... Okay, that was kind of bad. There is a gate skip in this level that can save around 10 seconds, but I'm actually not going to be going for it because it's not marathon safe, even though it is done in world record runs, because it's extremely precise, and it only it only saves 10 seconds, and if you fail it, you die, and you lose way more time than the skip saves. So for the sake of this run, I'm just not going to be going for it. That being said, there are still some cool tricks you can do in this level. And I am a cycle behind than I normally am with this route, so this might be a little bit sketchy. And thankfully there is another really big skip at the end of this run, at the end of this level, that is actually worth it. And it saves about 25 to 30 seconds. So I'm just going to use light pack and this bounce pad here. Okay, I forgot my audio. I normally use an audio cue for that, so I mistimed that. But yeah, you just skip like that. That skips a good chunk of the end of the level. Alright, and now we're on to the final boss. So there's two parts to this fight, and this first phase is pretty simple in terms of what you're doing. You're just grabbing all of these power pellets. Again, they always spawn to the same spots, so I know where they're going to be ahead of time. This fight can be kind of scary if you're doing the optimal movement like I'm doing, because it's super easy, again, to just boost in the slightest wrong angle, and Pac-Man just kind of falls off the edge and dies. And also there are these bumps in the gear geometry. It's super easy to fall between the gears or get screwed by the tiny little bumps that are in the center of the gears. Alright, so I kind of played it a little bit safe there, because I didn't want to die. That was pretty good. So now there's something important to keep in mind on this third phase, on the second phase. So I'm going to be intentionally avoiding the ghosts that have power pellets on them, because I want to hold off on eating them until the third phase of this fight. Because if I can eat the power pellet ghost as Golbus is spawning in, I can cancel him spawning in with his, with him becoming edible, and save about 10 seconds on this fight. And this was an oversight found by Mavi. So again, I'm avoiding the power pellet ghost, and I'm taking a very specific route here so that I don't have to eat them. Alright, time is coming up because this third phase goes by insanely quickly. So bam, 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 and time. Alright, 2311 is not bad for a no reset at all. That's actually the first time I have finished a run of this game for ResortFest, so that's pretty cool. And if you want to learn this game, you should join the Pac-Man Discord, or you can check out a full tutorial for any percent I have on my YouTube channel. I will also personally teach you everything you need to know about this game on the one condition that you must finish a run and get a time on the leaderboards. But yeah, that was Pack and Roll Remix. The world record, by the way, is a 22:22, and that's with 5-4 gate skip, so this run had an automatic 10-second disadvantage. Now, if time is allotted for it, and if the hosts are okay with it, I would like to try and show off 5-4 gate skip. I'll give it just like a couple attempts. I'll give it like no more than like maybe a minute or two of attempts.
I say go for it. Yeah, you have some extra time.
Alright, so this is the skip you have to go for at the end of runs. It's super precise. And I'm probably gonna get it first try. So the real only time save you get from it is you don't have to go out of your way to collect hack dots. Easy. So yeah, that's the skip you would have to do, but that's a lot harder than it looks, and again, if you fail it, you die, and you go pretty much all the way back to the beginning of the level if you didn't grab the checkpoint, so very, 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 very difficult strat. But yeah, that's it for that game, and I will throw it on over to the host. Thank you for having me.